Humans. Without a doubt, the smartest animal on Earth. Yet we're unmistakably tied to our ape origins. Millions of years ago, we were apes, living ape lives in Africa. So how did we get from that to this? What happened? What set us on the path to humanity? The questions are huge, but at last, there are answers. More than 6 million years ago, we took the first step to separate from the apes. Since then, there have been at least 20 types of human ancestor in our family tree. Some of them were on their way to being us. Others were evolutionary dead ends.
As recently as 50,000 years ago, there were probably 4 different kinds of humans living at the same time. Yet today, we are a species alone.
Why did we survive and all the others disappear? New discoveries are shining light on the final stages of our evolution. We're finding out where our species, Homo sapiens, came from.
The genetic record shows us that all modern humans are descended from a small population of approximately 600 breeding individuals.
And we are discovering how they spread through the world, pushing out other ancient humans, like the Neanderthal.
Neanderthals were very successful humans. They have lived in Europe for maybe 300, 400,000 years, but eventually they were replaced by modern humans.
But why were they replaced by modern humans? The mystery of the Neanderthal disappearance is finally being solved as the secrets of their genetic code are unlocked. We're discovering exactly what made them different from us and how we're unique. So join us as we explore the origins of our own species. Find out why we're the last humans standing, right now on Nova. Imagine a world with only a tiny number of us in it. Perhaps just a few thousand. A recently evolved species, we are completely at the mercy of the natural forces around us. 140,000 years ago, Homo sapiens teetered on the brink of extinction. New discoveries are revealing how, from these humble beginnings, we took over the planet, eventually replacing other ancient humans who were already living there, Homo erectus and the Neanderthals.
Humans have a very intensive way of using the environment. Humans move into the Middle East, the Homo erectus starts going extinct. When humans move into Europe, the Neanderthals go extinct.
For almost 400,000 years, the Neanderthals lived in Ice Age Europe. Superb hunters, they had brains bigger than ours and a record of survival twice as long. They were the most advanced humans on Earth until we arrived. And then they vanished. Why? Finally, we're unearthing the answers. The remains of a 100,000-year-old child are revealing what we had that they didn't.
Essential to figure out what are the differences between the Neanderthals and us to figure out what is special about us.
Was it some new physical ability? Or was it a new way of thinking? These questions go to the heart of what makes us human. To answer them, we must travel back in time to the beginning of our human story. Imagine the entire span of recorded human history, taking us back to the Egyptian pyramids 5,000 years ago. Double it 10,000 years ago, when plants were domesticated and agriculture begins. Double it again, to the time when Ice Age hunters paint stunning images on cave walls. And keep doubling, 6 more times, and we are finally entering the world of Homo erectus, the remarkable ancestor who pioneered what it means to be human. Homo erectus appeared on the African plains almost 2 million years ago. They were the first ancestors who had bodies like ours. They were hunter-gatherers and tool makers, beings who lived in social groups and cared for each other. The most famous Homo erectus is the fossil called Turkana-boy.
Well, Turkana-boy and his ancestors, they represent a threshold. They represent that point in our evolution when we weren't quite fully a human, but we were no longer an ape.
Paleo artist Victor Dieck specializes in creating scientifically based sculptures of ancient humans from their fossil remains. As he reconstructs Turkana-boy's head, ape-like features emerge. Heavy brow ridges, a protruding lower face, a skull still smaller than our own. But despite these differences, Turkana-boy is definitely starting to look like a human being. And behind those eyes, his mind was becoming human too.
I suspect that complex feelings and behaviors had their beginnings with Turkana-boy's kind, and that what it is to truly be a human had its bubblings at that point.
It was probably Homo erectus, almost 2 million years ago, who first started to leave Africa. Ever since, Africa has been the engine of our evolution, pumping out wave after wave ancient humans who populated Europe and Asia. Settling in far-off places, they developed in their own special ways. An early wave gave rise in Indonesia to the extraordinary hobbit, perhaps a type of dwarf Homo erectus. Another wave took Homo erectus all the way to China, where fossil remains have been dated to over 700,000 years ago. Soon after, another wave left Africa, this time heading for Europe. This was the species that would one day give rise to the Neanderthals. Ever since the first skull was discovered in Heidelberg, Germany, they have been called Homo heidelbergensis. But almost nothing was known about it until one extraordinary find was made. Atapuerca in northern Spain. These rolling hills have turned out to be an archaeological gold mine. When a railway was built over 100 years ago, it cut right through the hills. Archaeologists later discovered this had exposed over 1 million years of ancient human habitation, including the oldest human remains in Europe. Nearby, on the crest of one of the hills, they also found the entrance to some caves. To explore them took years, but it has been worth it. They have discovered a labyrinth of chambers and corridors reaching far inside the hills. At the end of the labyrinth is one of the most inaccessible archaeological sites in the world. A treasure trove of human fossils they call the Pit of Bones.
This is the entrance to the whole system. The pit itself is very far from here. It is a long way, and in some places they have to crawl. It's a difficult place to work.
Today, it takes half an hour of walking, crawling, and scrambling in the dark to reach the 50-foot vertical shaft that drops into the pit. But it took almost 10 years for the site to give up its secrets.
We started to find small pieces of human bones, difficult to recognize at the beginning because they were very fragmentary.
But so many tiny fragments made them think they were on to something big.
Even without talking each other, we started to think that maybe there were, down there, skeletons.
As bone after bone came out of the pit, they realized they had not one, but many complete skeletons.
We have around 30 complete skeletons, 500,000 years old. And this is absolutely unique.
These are the skeletons of the ancestors called Homo heidelbergensis, one of the earliest to populate Europe. But why were so many complete skeletons collected in one place? Juan Luis Arzuaga believes they were put there intentionally by their kin. 500,000 years ago, the pit of bones, now deep underground, had an opening to the surface. Perhaps Homo heidelbergensis dropped the bodies into the pit in a sort of primitive burial. And there is evidence it may have been ceremonial. Along with the bones, Juan Luis found a single artifact, a hand axe made of pink quartz, a mineral which must have been brought from a long way away. The team called it Excalibur, after King Arthur's famous sword. They believe it was an offering, the first symbol ever found. If this is right, here were beings with complex minds, capable of symbolism and belief.
500,000 years ago, in these European populations, there was planning, there was consciousness, there was a human mind, and there was also symbolic behavior.
We used to think these qualities belonged only to us, Homo sapiens, that the earliest evidence for them was in the painted caves of southern France, just 30,000 years ago. But the extraordinary finds at Atapuerca may have pushed the beginnings of that mental evolution back almost 500,000 years. Homo heidelbergensis would continue to evolve, eventually becoming the species who would populate Europe, the Neanderthals. Of all ancient humans, the Neanderthals were the closest to us. Their brains were slightly larger than ours. Their short, heavy-set bodies helped them survive repeated ice ages. They were hunters, living off the big game that roamed the edges of the great ice sheets covering Europe and Central Asia. When Neanderthal fossils were first discovered, Darwin had yet to publish his theory of evolution. The idea that modern humans had descended from more primitive forms would generate furious controversy.
Il s'agit du crâne d'Angie II.
This is the skull of Angus II. It is the first Neanderthal fossil ever found on Earth. It was discovered at the end of 1829. But back then, people were not happy with the idea that this could be a human being like us.
Many claimed that the Neanderthals were just diseased, misshapen humans. Then, as evolutionary ideas took